All right. So what's up? So the next book on the agenda right here, Anacalypsis Volume 2, an attempt to draw aside the veil of the Saitic Isis, or an inquiry into the origin of languages, nations, and religions. Now, Godfrey Higgins is my favorite author and historian. Um, it's kind of funny that I say that too, because of course, it's Black History Month, so I've been sharing a lot of stuff about Black history. And some people, I have been told that they call me Afrocentric. Only if they knew what I was mixed with, they would be, they wouldn't say that. But Godfrey Higgins doesn't believe that everybody came from Africa. He actually says that the original man came from Asia, which is the opposite of what I just said. So, but it's interesting he says that because his information is carried on from the 18th century on till now. And every author that I've read that are Black scholars, they'll mention him. Some white scholars will mention him, and everybody in between will mention them in just a little bit. But I've actually read his books like crazy. Like, I have a lot of tabs in them, just like I did on the first one. And I went through each one of these tabs and researched them like crazy. And that's why this one is a good one to go over. It might take 2 sessions. I don't know, like the last one, but that's a lot of tabs. And his books are very thick. And but he does say that, man comes from Asia. Now, before I get too deep into this, let me make sure that everything is copacetic. Let's see. Hold on. Should be live. Everything is. Yep. All right. Yeah, I just want to make sure the audio is good. So before I start that, I also want to share right here, this book right here, to me, I love it a lot. This is the second one. He also has what is called Celtic Druids, which is another good version of where the origins of where those individuals come from and how he ties it into this book here. I just got to say, information's everywhere. You just got to find the right people to go research, and you got to keep your mind as open as possible. And I say this because it's funny that people will say that I'm Afrocentric and I think everything's from Africa. I only say that because in the 18th century, Godfrey Higgins didn't have the opportunity to use DNA in the science that we have today. So maybe he would have changed his mind. I don't know. I can't make no opinion or theory or idea on that. But I can say that he was a religious man, and he's also a Mason. And they also, if you read the Bible, they believe man came from, Mesopotamia somewhere. And that's in Asia. So I can understand why he would start there, especially in his time frame and the limited information and science that he had. But let's go to the first tab. Let's see. It says, but if when I am disputing about black and white, hot and cold, sweet and bitter, you should say that I show that there are 2 whites and 2 hots and 2 sweets, will you not appear to be devoid of reason and a sound head? And thus, when see, this is where this is where I remember where he didn't make sense to me. Because he says, and thus when I teach 2 principles, God and Hyle, I ought not therefore to appear to show 2 gods. It is of no consequence whether the argument put into the mouth of Faustus be observed or not. The fact clearly comes out that the Manichaeans did not receive 2 equal and opposing principles as the Orthodox Christians have callously stated them to have done. So yeah, see, that didn't make sense to me, because I actually have some notes on this tab. So yeah, that I never even went back to look into that, and I don't think I could have. I probably did, but I don't think I found anything, because it didn't make sense, because I didn't get the 2 hots and 2 sweets. And I mean, I understand that he's trying to say many gods, and maybe let's just go to the next tab. Maybe because I got 3 tabs on the next page and it's all still under the same chapter. So let me just keep going. Okay. Let's see, where's it? Because his books. Okay, before I say this, don't buy this version that I have, and I say that because the print is really, really small. I mean, really, really small, and even with the small print, it's about 800-900 pages. So I don't understand that when you look at the other versions, there are less pages. So I think some things are taken out, and I actually am going to go buy other versions of this book to see what's in there, because when I look online to see what other versions of this books are, uh, this book here has, I'm telling you, very small print, and the it has like 700 or 800 pages for each book. And when you look at the other ones, it's like it's less pages than this one, and I don't know how they do that unless they make it much smaller than what it is here. And I'm just giving you, if you have the option and opportunity, promise you, go ahead and get the do your research on which versions to buy. I just bought this one because it was the only hard print that was available at that time. But let's go to the next one. Hence, we see that the word HKME, I don't know how to say that, but that's how it's spelled, which means wisdom, has the same meaning as the words in the Greek and Hebrew, which mean first, or means wisdom has the same meaning as the words in Greek and Hebrew, which means first, or means, hold on, or beginning. I'm sorry. So I said that twice. So let me say that again, because like I said, this is very fine, small print. Hence, we see that the word HKME, which means wisdom, has the same meaning as the words in the Greek and Hebrew, which means first or beginning. Perhaps it may be irrelevant or may not be irrelevant in reference to the plurality of the God in the first verse of Genesis to observe that the Gnostics are said to have worshipped a being called Akhmoth. This is evidently nothing but the Hebrew word HKME, wisdom. It says, and then it says in the plural number and in its feminine. So that's pretty interesting. All right, here we go. The unlearned reader must be informed that the most common word in Hebrew for wisdom is HKME, and for wisdoms in the feminine gender plural, HKMUT. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Let's see. Go to the next page. Whoa, yeah, this one. Let me see. Okay, of the different dreams which have terrified the imaginations of the weaker class of mankind, there is perhaps no one which has played a greater game than that of the fear of Antichrist, a person who I believe to have been pretty generally misunderstood. So I know some of you are going to be like, what? Hold up, say that again. But I'm going to say that one more time. So yeah, yeah, I know. All right. Of the different dreams which have terrified the imaginations of the weaker class of mankind, there is perhaps no one which has played a greater game than that of the fear of Antichrist, a person whom I believe to have been pretty generally misunderstood. The word, and it's in Greek, I don't know how to say it. Yeah, I don't know how to say it. And I can't say it in my words in our letters because I don't know these Greek letters. But it says, I believe does not mean a person opposed to Christ. So I'm opposing to, I'm assuming, I'm assuming they're talking about Antichrist. That word is Antichrist, how you say it in Greek. I believe does not mean a person opposed to Christ, but a substitute for Christ, another Christ, a Christ in succession. I know. This is what they this is why I say, listen, in our sacred books, the disciples are constantly warned against false Christ, but nowhere it is said that there shall not be another Christ. Hold up now. Hold up now. In our sacred books, the disciples are constantly warned against a false Christ, but nowhere it is said that there shall not be another Christ. This is all in unison with the prophecy in John that Jesus would send a person to them in some capacity or other. Muhammad was believed to be this antichrist, and so was both Hakim Bamrila and Saint Francis. It is, as I have said before, nothing but the Hindu system, each party believing that the 10th incarnations was with them. The circumstance that an antichrist or another Christ should be forever is very curious, and certainly Floyer and several other Christians have shown a striking similarity between the prophecies of Christians and Muhammad. But they never discover that arises in a great measure for Mohammedan devotees doing everything in their power to aid the Christians, as they hold that Muhammad was the real Antichrist, the person foretold by John. Then that was that whole tab. That was that whole tab that I just talked about. So going into the next tab is literally the next paragraph is the Templars were accused of worshiping a being called Bayumid and Baphomet or Karuf. And now this is all spelled differently, not what I'm normally seeing. So I say it how I seen it. But Mr. Hammer says that this word written in Arabic has the meaning of calf and is what Kircher calls anima mundi. It is difficult not to believe that this is Karuf, is our calf, and Bamuid must be Pi, the Egyptian epithet article in the Ahmed, the desire of all nations, that is Muhammad. The assassins, we must recollect, are said to have worshipped a calf, but our travelers who tell us this story do not tell us that they saw the calf. And it is easy to perceive that they take the account as well as the custom of the assassins of rising up to play, as our Bible will call it, from their Mohammedan enemies. If they have a calf in use as an emblem, I should consider it as proof that they are a tribe of extreme antiquity, which, though holding the doctrines of the 10 incarnations, yet clings to the ancient worship of Taurus. So yeah, and then he goes on, and then the last sentence is, it is of the same nature as the picture in Russia of the Holy Family in which the calf is found instead of the ram. So that's pretty interesting. Let's see. The next tab is on the next page. It says the revenue of the Templars in the 12th century are said to have amounted to 6 million pounds sterling a year. Notwithstanding the immense wealth, it is very certain that their chiefs were repeatedly guilty, betraying the Christians, because to the assassins, and to account for this, in one instance, a very miserable pittance of money is stated to have been the reward, 3,000 pieces of gold. This I cannot believe of a man of such immense wealth as their chief. So that's, I don't know why I did that, but maybe just for the Templars part. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. From Cleveland, I learned that the Celtic Sab means wise, whence Saba in Sabaseus, no doubt wise in the stars. From this comes the Sabbath, or day dedicated to wisdom, and Sabbath, a species of French masonry, an account of which may be seen and history of Paris. Sunday was the day of instruction of the Druids when it was called Sabs, from the preachment of the Sabs or sages or wise Saget or Sacerdos. So next page, let's go to the next page. Let's go to the next page. The intimate connection between the Knights of St. John of Jerusalem and the temples is well known, and it is worthy of observation that they are both dedicated to St. John the Baptist. Their churches are mostly round, and the baptisteries the same. The followers of St. John the Baptist are called Nazarenes, Mandaites, and Ionites. We must not forget that the Ions of Buddha and Dias. So that's pretty interesting. Let's keep it going. Let's see. The Masons were the first priests or branch from them, and as they were the persons employed to provide everything requisite for honoring the gods, the building of the temples naturally fell into the hands, and thus priests and Masons were identified. Thus, the Masons were an order of priests, that is, of initiated. Every initiated person was a priest, though he might not exercise the functions of a priest. Thus, they became identified with the most powerful and influential body of society. And though all priests were not Masons, I think that all Masons were priests in one sense, being initiated. I think they were priests originally, and as was to be expected, they provided good houses for themselves. And when many of them consisted of monks of monasteria, in many instances from superiority of intellect, the consequences of the constant use of their faculties, they acquired the sovereign power. So yeah, Masons got power. That's what a lot of people say anyway. The use of the pallium of sacred cloak to convey the character of inspiration was practiced by the Imams of Persia, the same as practiced by Elias and Elisha and Elisha. Okay, that's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, hold on, let me see. Grab this. When a person is admitted to the highest degree, he will receive the investor with the pallium and the semak, which is, I don't know how to say it's in Greek, so I can't say that part. One of the names of the chief of the assassins was Old Man of the Mountains, Cynics de Montibus. The Boudoir of Scotland was old man, and Buddha in India means old man. My opinion is that the assassins, I laughed at this when I first read this too, because it was pretty interesting, because now I can't watch assassin movies the way I watch them. But my opinion, Godfrey Higgins' opinion, of course, that the assassins were Buddhists, receives confirmation as part from this. So the assassins were Buddhists. I don't know how many people knew that, but when I first read that for the first time, I thought that was pretty funny, because I could never watch assassin movies the same after that. And this is what he says. He was the Ancient of Days. Oh, hold on. Let me go back to that part, because I want to make sure I read the whole part. Okay, the old man was long white hair, was the peculiar emblem of wisdom. So that's why they say gray hair shows wisdom. I guess that's where they get it from. At least that's the oldest that I can go back to when it was said. That's pretty interesting. The fact that the Afghans make frequent use of Hebrew names as Asub and Yaqub. I talked about Yaqub the first time. The big-headed black African scientist, or some people know him as Jacob. But that's how you say his name, Yaqub. But it's just interesting. I talked about that the first time, and that their tribes were Hebrew names. That's pretty interesting. Let's see. Next page. Here we cannot fail to observe that the Bhoiae who came to Gal, or Baieux of the Manichaeans, are in Iota or Judah, as I am quite certain I have to prove to be. Okay, let me go on and read because I got a marker in here, so that means I need to go further. Okay, here we go. Okay, yeah, this is right. It is impossible to forget that the first Christians were most of them fishermen. Okay, I want to say that again. The reason why I have this whole paragraph found there because this part right here. It is impossible to forget that the first Christians were most of them fishermen, and the Pope calls himself fisherman. So the Pope is the fisherman. Now, if you remember from my 1873 Bible, uh, uh, Satan is also known as, or Pope and Satan have a lot in common too. I actually did a video on that too, so you can go and check that video out if you're interested. But I'll talk about that in the future too, because that's going to come up a lot. But yeah, the Pope calls himself the fisherman. All right, Jesus Christ, as I have before stated, is called by the Arabians, and I can't read this. This is nothing but a form of Isis. So Jesus Christ, as I have before stated, is called by the Arabians. Okay. And this is where, all the in the past, because it's supposed to be one whole book. I should say that volume 1 and volume 2 is like a continuance. Like I'm on page 748, but of course I'm not 748 pages in. It's just a continuance from volume 1, or at least that's how it has it numbered on here. So I guess he wrote this all as one book. But like I said, Jesus, as I have stated, is called by the Arabians, and I can't read it because it's very, very, very small print. But it says this is nothing but a form of Isis. So just take that for how you want to take it. Isis, Jesus Christ. So when somebody brings up Jesus Christ and I say that, they'll be like, "Oh, you're lying." But I'll be like, "Hey, that's what Godfrey Higgins says." And I think that's just pretty interesting. Can you prove him wrong? And some things you can prove him wrong in, like with the science, showing that the oldest Homo sapiens, or at least humans that we are, come from Africa versus Asia. So one first escapes from Dr. Buchanan of most important nature, and it is this that at a temple of Juggernaut, I suppose, with his car. And of course, they didn't have cars back there, but it's just it definitely says car. And Cedra, and then it says between Trichinopoli and Madura, the rites of the Roman Christian Church was celebrated in Syro-Chaldaic language. That is, I suppose that Pushto by priests called Joseph. Surely that this speaks for itself in spite of Buchanan's disguise and confirms everything which was said by Jesuit Goguet. Juggernaut means great creator. So Juggernaut means great creator. That's what I got from that. And then you can look at all that other stuff and be interested in it. But I just found Juggernaut means great creator. The Jews were not black when the following passage was written, which we find in the Songs of Solomon. I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me, and so on. Had the Jews been black when this was written, the color would not have been noticed as uncommon. So that's what he said. That's what he said. You take that with a grain of salt, but I just found that interesting. So the Jews were not black when the following passage was written. So that must tell you something, but I'm not gonna tell you what to believe. I'm not gonna make you take my opinion. I'm just giving you what I found interesting. Plato tells us that Thamus was king of Egypt before Thoth, who taught him letters. Here are the twins preceding Buddha or Mercury or the bull, and the inhabitants of Egypt are said to be the descendant from Thamus. Think about that for a second. Let's just take a second to think about that. The first city was built by Noah, who called it Thamanin. This is not important. This is most important, I shall return to hereafter. Indeed, in every part of the world, the remains of worship of Tam may be found. That's pretty interesting. Next one. The natives of Western Colocos were described to be black with curly hair and to be circumcised. In Madura, the head class are circumcised, but not the lower orders. This seems to raise fair presumption that the rite arose here and traveled to the Egyptians, among whom Mr. Parkhurst has shown that it existed before the time of Abraham, but among the priests or higher class only. That's pretty interesting. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. Let's see. Let's see. The Persians called their sacred book the Sophi Ibrahim. That is the book of the wisdom of Abraham. All right. The wisdom of Abraham, and Abraham is the founder of the well, some people say he's the founder of the monotheistic religion. That can be argued. That can be argued. But let's see. Okay. Now there was this guy on X Space one day, intelligent dude, man. He was speaking so many good facts, man. And I asked him a question about the 72 names of God and where he read it from. He was like, well, I just heard somebody say it. And I was like, man, I wonder if they read this book. But he said he heard it from somebody else. And I wanted to tell him that he was right. And I tell you why, because Infield, and this is written from Godfrey Higgins in his book, I think it was published in 1736, I believe. The Jews had 72 names of God. The rabbis maintained that the angels who ascended and descended Jacob's ladder were 72 in number. Lightfoot on the temple surface states the dress of Aaron to have upon in 72 bells. So, and then it goes on to this conveys with it the consequence that it must have had 72 pomegranates. And then here we go. If Bishop Wilkins can be depended on, meaning if his information is actual based on facts, there were 72 kinds of animals in the ark. And that's why I marked, because everybody says, how do you save every animal on the planet? And blah, blah, blah. Well, there wasn't every single planet animal. Matter of fact, my wife's grandma, she's very religious, and she reads the Bible constantly, and she was talking about the different the number 72s one time, and I remember picking up this book, and I was like, oh man, this is pretty interesting, because I never knew that 72 actually had a lot of correlations with a lot of different things in the Bible. And when you just look at the different ways of it, like I said, that just reading that part right there was pretty interesting. Let me see something real quick. 72 names. Let me see the Jacob's ladder, blah blah blah. The animals. So let me see if it talks about that before I bring it up. Blah blah blah. Animals. Okay, so when it came to the animals, I asked her, the animals that she know that were taken on the ark, and she said that it wasn't every animal, it was God's favorite animals. And when I read the 72 part, I could see the correlation with that and understand that better. That's pretty interesting to me. Yeah, 72s. Yeah. Let's see, the sacred numbers everywhere. The saying clearly prove an esoteric religion and oriental allegory. The fact cannot be doubted. Jesus, the God of peace, sent. Let me see. Oh, here we go. This is where it gets so confusing. Okay, Jesus, the God of peace, sent out his 12 apostles to preach his gospel the god Io, the sun had the year divided into 12 months to 12 signs, throughout which in his annual course he passed. Yep. And yeah, J Dub 72. Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said too. I said, man, only 72. I was like, wow. I said, man, but that's I don't know. I don't know. Let me ask you, what you saying only 72 to first? Let's get to that. Yeah, I'll wait for your answer for that. But here we go. The mystical number used in the religions of the sun are constantly found in the religion of Jesus. The number of the 12 apostles, which formed the retinue of Jesus during the mission, is that of the signs and of the secondary genii. Okay. It is the 12 gods to the Romans, each of whom presided over a month. Yeah, most people should know that already. You know how, like, the months and all that stuff can be correlated with planets and stuff. Let's go to the next tab. Oh yeah, here we go. Between the Decalogue of Moses and the rule of morality of the Buddhists of Tibet, as been given by Georges, there is a wonderful similarity. So yeah, Buddhists and Moses. Yeah, I've read that before too. A small little part of that. In the Genesis, there's all right. So this is where it's going to get interesting. That it says. In Genesis, there are no fallen angels. All these came into the Mosaic religion on the return from Babylon. The destroyer or serpent of Genesis is correctly the renovator or preserver. In Genesis, there is a tree of knowledge and a tree of life. This tree of life evidently proves the meaning of the mythos to be that Adam would die at some time, that he would wear out unless he ate of the fruit of that tree. The serpent, by persuading Eve to taste of the fruit of the tree of knowledge and so on, taught her what is meant by being naked, and thus by inducing procreation was the preserver of the species. The very literal meaning of the words shows that this is one of its meanings. Here we have the origin of the Ophites, or Oriental emblematical serpent worshippers, to account for whom our antiquarians have been so much perplexed. They worship the Savior, regenerator, but not the devil in our vulgar meaning of the word. I have formerly given an extract from a work of Mr. Paine's Knights, in which he avows his belief that the double principle was never the religious belief of any nations. And then it says in figure 35, and that's why I said earlier, it doesn't have any figures in here. And I have to go and get these other books and see what figure 5 looks like, because I don't know what it says, but it says in figure 5, taken from Spence's Polymetis, we see the Mosaic mythos in Greece. If the gem whence it was drawn in Grecian, here is the serpent called Heva, tempting Adam. Spence calls it a drawing of Hercules after he has killed the serpent. But why is the serpent up in the tree instead of lying dead on the ground? Where are the club, the lion's head and feet? The serpent is evidently whispering in Adam's ear while he is taking an apple. This quite satisfies me that after all the labor bestowed on the mythos of the Ophites, we are not yet quite at the bottom of it. So yeah, it is in general principle we are right, but not in the detail. Parkhurst has given a message from Clemens, which proves that the Greek Bacchanals were well acquainted with the mythos of Eve, since they constantly invoked her or a person under her name in their ceremonies. So yeah, one of the Targums says that the serpent tempted Adam, or the first man, and not Eve, his wife. So just imagine that for a second. We know because man, for some reason, says that Eve was first tempted, but Godfrey Higgins says that it could be vice versa. And what better to blame it on somebody else than somebody else for it? I mean, just think about it. In Japan, Buddha is adored with the words Namu Amida Booth, which means adoration to Amida Buddha. The word Namu is a corruption of Nama, meaning adoration in the Japan and Sanskrit languages. So that's pretty interesting. Linguistics. Let's see. It is for this reason that the busts of the 12 Roman Caesars are often black. Oh, see, now this is where, oh, yeah. See, when I bring this up, people say I'm Afrocentric, but I'm just like, yo, look, this Godfrey Higgins is talking about. Did you know this stuff was talked about in the 1800s? I'm not talking about, I'm just telling you, but let's go back. Here we go again. All right, we're just gonna go. I'm gonna just go to the top. I'm gonna just go. Man, yeah, this is in the middle of the paragraph too. So, all right, let me just keep it going. It is for this reason that the busts of the 12 Roman Caesars are often black, though the drapery is white. Persons having the same divine character as the 12 successors of Jacob, the 12 apostles of Jesus Christ, the 12 Amunists of Persia, the 12 apostles of Hakim, Bemrilab, the 12 apostles of Mani, but above all the 12 Lucuminists of Itoria or of the country of Razina, who are shown by Monas. Here, the Razina or Razina is very remarkable. All these were supposed to have certain portion of the divine spirit or the superior anima incarnate in them more than other men, or in other words, to be divinely inspired. All right, so yeah, that's pretty interesting. Let's see. In the Dasatir, which though perhaps in some places corrupted, is a ancient, very ancient book of the Persians. The creator is called Yazdan. So that's pretty interesting. So I took that down. So you heard another name for a god, Yazdan. In all of the histories of the early Christians called by the Paluds of Rome or Papists, heretics, we read that they held the doctrine that the God of the Jews was not the great God, but only a demon or angel. Hold up. How can he be a demon or an angel? Can't you tell the difference between them? Let's say that again. Let's read it again. In all the histories of the early Christians called by the Paulits of Rome or Papists, heretics, we read that they held the doctrine that the God of the Jews was not the great God, but only a demon or angel. I ain't saying that again because I ain't trying to get shut down. Anyway, the ancient Jews maintained that the Kabbalah was revealed by God to Moses and was transmitted verbally, it being too sacred to be written. This is very like, I was hoping somebody was, Freemasonry. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say it. I wanted to hold up. The ancient Jews maintained that the Kabbalah was revealed by God to Moses and was transmitted verbally, it being too sacred to be written. This is like Freemasonry. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's what's up. What's up? Let's see. Man. I don't know if y'all could tell that my voice is different. My allergies is bothering or something. I don't know. My kids got sick, man. I don't know what's going on. So, all right, here we go. This is an interesting one. Jesus Christ was said by some of his followers to be a renewal of Adam. He said before Abraham was I am, the future thesis being convertible. I don't know. I don't understand it. The Iqua in our translation arose, but it ought to be. Before Abraham was I sees? I can't tell. Yeah, sees. Wait. Yeah, I can't tell because it's so fine print and it's right on the corner of the book. But I think what I got out of this was Jesus Christ was by some of his followers to be a renewal of Adam. Now I know that there were two Adams. I've read that before, and I've also read that Jesus Christ was the second Adam. Let's see. This I have no doubt that the popes would quote to establish a claim to universal dominance, which I shall explain in my next volume. It was held that Jesus would come to rule at Jerusalem, but I suspect that the Mohammedans would say as a renewed incarnation. And I think they held Muhammad to be a renewed incarnation of Jesus, and Ali a reincarnation of Muhammad. So take that with how you want to take it, but that's what Godfrey Higgins said. Oh yeah, so yeah, okay. So matter of fact, I'm sorry. So volume 1 is one book. I just realized volume 1 goes all the way up to page, because this is where it gets funny too. On this book at least, up to page 865. So we're right here. This is volume 2, right there. I know you probably couldn't really see it, but we're in the appendix. I didn't even realize that. Okay, so those tabs, I didn't even get to volume 2 yet. That's all a part of volume 1. That's just in the book. So I messed up, man. So volume 1 is all of this. So I should be having volume one up here too. And the only reason why I say that is because I just realized I got to the index and I have to get to the actual value tab in volume 1 or volume 2. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so yeah, here we go. So yeah, here we go. So the very first tab for volume 2. He then goes on to state that the jid is a cognomen of Buddha and means, hold on, unicus or unigenitis, and that it is a jihad of Phoenician at ahido serum. Okay, and this is what I think I found interesting is, in fact, Aidi, he confirms almost all which I have before given from the cruiser respecting Buddha on the name of Axka. Now I seen it, I spell it Xaca, and I've seen that before. That's why I marked that. Yeah, that wasn't something that anybody I don't think will really understand if I don't go into depth, and I can't right now because it'll take me away from this book. Yeah, I kind of mark these things out. I'll do it in the future, of course. But anyway, the Morris or mulberry tree is a very, very mythical plant. It is said to be Sapientissima arba. It was probably thus designated because it had the same name as the god of wisdom. Brahma is the same as Brahmahaspati, who is worshipped the same day as Sawa Iswati. The truth is, wherever Scientia is found, Sapientia may be written. So I guess when you see those two words, I know y'all didn't see it, but I know when I see it, that's pretty interesting. Let's see, is under his temple. Okay, I have little doubt that Serapis was put to death as well as Osiris, but that he was crucified. It was under the template, under his temple at Alexandria, that the cross was found when it was destroyed by one of the Roman emperors. We cannot forget that Serapis was considered by Hadrian and the Gentiles to be a pure god of the Christians. The Egyptian history is evidently a garbled and in many respects a confused misrepresentation of the same history or the mythos as that of the Jews. Yeah, most people already know that. Speaking of the Egyptians, it is said by another learned Abi Bazin that the words "I am that I am" were on the front of the temple of Isis, Sais, and that the name esteemed the most sacred by the Egyptians was that which the Hebrews adopted, Wai-Ha-Ho. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Wai-Ha-Ho. Really, really, really interesting, I guess. I don't know why. I need to look up that why Yahweh again. Uh, Mexico is one of the few places where native iron is found, and it lies in masses on the side of their mountains in greater abundance. So yeah. Let's see, where is it at? Okay, here we go. This is where it gets interesting. Woo! This one is a good one. The Marquis Spinito, in his lectures, has quoted a person called Carlyle as having deeply studied the origin of nations and languages, and who he says has asserted that having the deeply studied the origins. Hold on. I want you to hear this, because this is why it's going to get crazy, because I don't want nobody. I'm going to say it again. The Marquis Sapinta in his lectures has quoted a person called Cali as having deeply studied the origins of nations and languages, and who says has asserted that the Egyptians peopled America. That's why I said it like that, because I want you to listen to me. Hold up now. Hold up. We're gonna go back and say that one more time. One more time. Because I've talked about this plenty of times. I've heard other people talked about it. It's not ancient mystery. It's not anything out there forgetting. I'm not the only one that knows about it. Plenty of people heard it. You know, they said that, I believe they found Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So let's just go back to what this says. Okay, because this is it's pretty interesting that when you hear certain things like this, especially from hundreds of years ago, and people denying it today, and then you got places like Memphis, and then you got, you know, one of the greatest pyramids is in Memphis, you know, the Bass Pro Shop Pyramid. I think it's in Tennessee. I'm not sure if it's in Memphis. I don't know, where is it at. It's in Tennessee somewhere. I want to say it's in Memphis. But anyway, let's read this again. The Marquis Spinito, in his lectures, has quoted a person called Carly as having deeply studied the origin of nations and languages. Okay, origins of nations and languages, and who he says has asserted that the Egyptians peopled America. He particularly noticed a word as being held sacred among the Egyptians, and in the Pacific Ocean, it is tabou, Tabou. But this is nothing but Bouta, bata, read anagrammatically, or in fact in the old Hebrew fashion. The high priest of the North American Indians was called Sachem, Sachem. I think we have here both the Saga and the Acme and also the Sikkim, which we have before noticed in Tibet. The dignity of sacrificer was supreme and hereditary, like a feudal title. So that's pretty interesting. That's what they say. That's what they say. Why is there so much hidden messages? Here we go. Let's see. Humboldt says that the Mexicans hold that before the flood, which took place 4,800 years after the creation of the world, the earth was inhabited by giants. One of them, after the flood, called Zalhua, or the architect, built an immense pyramidal tower which was to reach to heaven, but the gods offended, destroyed it with lightning. Here it is complete jumble of the ancient mythology. The 4,800 are the 8 cycles before Christ. It's interesting. It's interesting. See, Mexico got some correlations with this stuff. The Peruvians had a festival called the Festival of Capacrimi in the first month of their year, called Rami. Acosta supposes this was contrived by the devils imitation of the Passover. It may be observed that all the acts of worship are directly, avowedly to the sun. The Mexicans sacrificed human victims, which Lord Kingsborough has shown was practiced by the Jews. See that? Now I brought that up before. A lot of people say the Jewish nothing in the Abrahamic faith that kids weren't sacrificing. I was like, Abraham. But anyway, and then I said, yeah, well, I bring up Lord Kingsborough, and they'll be like, yeah, whatever. But anyway, according to Lawrence King, that's what they did. That's just the information that's out there. I don't know how facts it is. I mean, prove me wrong. I'm just telling you what I've read. That's it. Let's see. Here we go. The god is sacrificed in the heavens in a circle of 19 figures, the number of the Metonic cycle. Now, this says it's in volume 2, plate 75. Let me see. Let me go back to the next page. Okay, so let me go to the beginning of the paragraph. Lord Kingsborough says the Mexicans honor the cross. They knew them, the Cherubians, or Cherubicanesis, which name differs from the Cherubiris, the mother of the Bacab, honor their cross. The Incas had a cross of very fine marble or beautiful jasper, highly polished, of one piece, 3/4 of an ell in the length and the figures in width and thickness. In volume 2, plate 75, the god is crucified in the heavens in a circle of the 19 figures. I don't know where volume 2, like I said, it doesn't give me everything on here, and I don't know where that part is. The Peruvians believed in one supreme being, the creator of heaven and earth, called Viracocha and Pacamac, who had revealed to them his religion. So most people already know that. That's pretty interesting. The reason assigned by the Spanish government was that they were prevented going, that they might not create disputes and prevent conversions. The other of the notes to Lord Kingsborough's book says that he believes that the Jews colonized America and held it for 1,000 years, and that they introduced, as it must have been along with their own, the Christian rites into the religion of the Mexicans, who had never heard of Christianity, to show their hatred of Christianity and to turn it into a ridicule, and that it was for this reason that they established the Christian doctrines along with those of the Jews, such as the resurrection, ascension, and so on. The passage is so extraordinary that I think the writer must have meant it for a joke. So I don't get it for a joke, but that's pretty funny. Easter Island is situated in north longitude 27.5, west longitude 109.46. It may be considered to be a part of America. Okay. Easter Island can be considered part of America. The most remarkable curiosity in this island is a number of colossal stones. On the east side of the island, we're seeing the ruins of the 3 platforms of stonework on which had stood for one from the third they were broken or defaced. That must be incorrect, but I'm not even going to try to read that again. The Mexicans in the histories, as already stated, say that they arrived to their present country from the west. So let me check something. I always got to make sure. Hold on. I always got to make sure that the audio is still good, because we're going to take a break and we're going to listen to some Lil Vibes music, Ambition, because it's about that break time. We bring up his stuff because I got to show support to Lil Vibe, man. Lil Vibe got some good music. Let's see. Yeah, they get right here. So yeah, one of my favorite songs is Ambition. So we're gonna do a shout out, play a real quick song, and then we're gonna jump back in. We're not even halfway through. It's 10:55. So yeah, 5 minutes, and then we get right back at it. So break time, take your breaks, do what you gotta do. Let's get this started up.
Say what? I can't. Sorry. What up? I do. ambitions on my mind and I can't let them go. Gotta stay up on my grind, no more sleeping on the floor. Came up from the pennies, now we stacking nickels in the drawer. On my dresser, yes, I got the pressure building on the low. Hit the joint and then I blow it, now I'm spinning around the globe. Put my name up in the bleachers and my people in the dough. Rapping scared to take a feature, know I eat them with the flow. I don't need them, I've been scheming with the preacher in the post. Play these demons while I'm eating, no hell, I don't need no poke. Pick a season, now I'm teasing in the visa on the boat. Had to please it cause they sucking on my dogs off on the low. Don't be reaching when you see me, PTSD like pop smoke. Fuck a joke, came up broke, remember sleeping on the floor. Hella broke, hella niggas steady hating on the flow. Now they broke, and I'm packing out arenas with the shows. Blowing Keeper in the Sutherland, saluting to the soul, yo. Woo. Saluting to the soul, yo. Yeah. Saluting to the soul, yo. Oh, yes. I do. I can't. Yeah. Got ambitions on my mind and I can't let them go. I've been thinking about these things since the tender age of 4. Would know I would grow to be a father and a go. Sleeping woke, tipping toeing through the valley of the ghost. Off the coast with my lady going shopping for a boat. Single flow, from the shop like I'm Katie with the post. Keep the bras, finishing Mortal Kombat, little bro. Like a boss, I was built to win, shining on the host. Custom Prado, golden diamonds, stay together on the rope. Getting better every second, been improving on my goals. Been a veteran, I'm moving through the obstacles and hosts. Falling deeper in a dream that's been implanted in my soul. Getting paper, chasing cream and staying meaner with the flow. Than I ever been is heaven sent, I'm rhyming like the Pope. Got the medicine for remedies afflicting on your soul. Blowing Keeper in the Sutherland, saluting to the soul, yo. Saluting to the soul, yo. Salute to the soul, yo.
Got ambitions in my mind. Can't let them go.
That's it. Record.
I'm reaching for the stars.
Yeah, there we go. Hold up.
Yeah, day.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I love that song a lot. So just getting back into this stuff, I just got to say, we got to support each other out there. We all trying to make it. If somebody jive and, ain't trying to do what they supposed to do, you can't help them. But if somebody's doing what they supposed to do and they sponsoring themselves and they out there promoting themselves and they putting out good materials, why not support them? You know what I'm saying? So let's just keep that going. So I'm going to go back and talk about what the Mexicans said. Well, according to what he learned from what Godfrey Higgins learned from him. But let me make sure that everything's working again. Because last time I did that, man, I went like 30 minutes one time. And it was hold on, this is it. Yeah, here we go. I'm back on it. Yeah, so it was crazy because hold on, I'm trying to bring the screen back up. Where's my mouse? There we go. There we go. Present. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, so I forgot what I was just saying because I got distracted. But let's go back to it. The Mexicans. This is what it says for according to Godfrey Higgins and Anacalypsis Volume 1. Wrote these books in 1730. I think he started in 1733 and then they was eventually published in 1736. But he says the Mexicans in their histories, as already stated, say they arrived in their present country from the West. They always persist most strenuously that it was from the West they came. And they describe towns on the coast where they remained for many years. In their progress to their present situation, the ruins of which assert are yet to be seen, they say that they came across the sea from another country. Now, this is where it gets interesting. because a lot of times a lot of people talk about this particular place that I'm about to talk about, and I try to get Jimmy Carcetti and all them people trying to talk to him about this and try to say, yo, you need to go a little bit further and see what these people are talking about, because you guys are doing the travel. I don't have the funds to do that. I wish I had the funds to go do that and go talk to some of these people that actually live there, because I guarantee you some of these old heads and them old school heads out there are like, yo, these cats don't know what they talking about. Get somebody out here that can really talk. And this is where it gets interesting. It says, now, was this Atlantis or not? It is very desirable that the remains of these towns should be sought for. So that right there just lets me know that somebody, Godfrey Higgins, was talking about Atlantis. I know Plato's the only dude that we can count on that has actually written information about Plato or about Atlantis. But that's interesting. When you're talking about Atlantis, there's more than one thing about it. I'm bringing up stuff like this whole book, and I'm telling you this whole book is not just what Christians and religion and all that. You can tie Atlantis and all that stuff together using the right material. You just got to go through the right people. Like I said, I don't trust everything Godfrey Higgins says because, like I said, at his time, he said that humans, I should say, came from Asia. Well, science tells us they came from Africa, which of course, would I be able to know or be able to determine that Godfrey Higgins would change his mind if he knew the scientific aspect of it? Who knows? I don't know. But what I do know is that I can sit up here and go to the point where I say, okay, look, this is what the book says. This is what the information says. You need more information on it. What I'll do is I'll dig deeper in it and give you some more information from this book. So that way you can go ahead and do it, or you can do your due diligence and just buy the book and just read it for yourself. But let's go to the next tab. The early kings of Rome were both kings and priests. Now we already talked about, or I should say I already brought up about how kings and priests are not the same. And when they were abolished, a chief priest was retained with reduced power, but which he was constantly endowing by all means to by all means to increase, to increase his power. Okay, so yeah, I get it. It says right here, this will be explained in a future page. So that's why it makes sense to me. I was trying to figure out what the heck he's trying to say for that. Says, I suspect the first part only of Lent was devoted to mourning, the last 3 days only being spent in the search, when long processions took place and ended with finding the whole God on Easter Sunday. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Let's see, next page. The Persians had a rite called the festival of Sakia or Sakis, which Mr. Basarbi has shown was probably a love feast. He observed that the Cyril in calling is Incas has probably meant to travesty the work of Saka. Okay. Love feast. Let's see. When young Persians came to be from 12 to 15 years of age, prayer and ceremonies took place and they were invested with the girdle. They were then supposed to be capable of understanding the doctrines of their religion. So by the time they turned about 15 years old. And the Satyr is capitalized, so it's Sadder. The sacred book of Zoroaster, it is written that the God has commanded the girdle as a sign of the obedience which is due to him. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? The girdle was a sign of the obedience to God, or their God at least. That's pretty interesting, right? So when you see somebody wearing a girdle, that means They obedient to their God. Let's see. The Christians were taken for worshippers of the sun because they prayed towards the east after the manner of those who adored the sun. He says that the name in his book, Ad Nat Lib, Mr. Reeves says that the Christians worship towards the east because the altar was there. But why was the altar there? But because the east was the symbol of the good deity, in opposition to the west, the symbol of the evil one. So that had 2 tabs on the same paragraph for that. Let's see. The followers of Mithra. Hey, did you know that Mithra was born on December 25th? And that's why we celebrate, or that's the actual reason why we celebrate Christmas. Did you know that? Probably did. The followers of Mithra always turn towards the east when they worship. The same is done by the Brahmins of the east and Christians of the west. In the ceremony of baptism, the Catabuan was placed with his face to the west, a symbolical representation of the Prince of Darkness, in opposition to the east, and made to spit towards it at the evil one and renounce its works. Wow. Oh man, that's crazy. The ceremony of putting ashes on the head on Ash Wednesday is a continuation of the festival of the Fordyceia, which was celebrated at Rome on the 15th and the 21st of April. The Catholic modern processions are exact imitations of those of the ancients, which were attended with music, tappers, processions of images, companies of attendants, streets hung with tapestry, and so on and so on. So yeah, there we go. That's interesting. It's cool. I might do part 2 tomorrow or sometime at the end of this week, because it's already 11, almost halfway through. There's a lot of tabs. The first one was long too. The first one was, I think, like 3 hours, 4 hours almost. In every case, the God is supposed to become incarnate. In every case, the place in which he was actually born was exhibited to the people. The night of the 24th December, the Persians called the night of light. Stuckley observes that the worship of Mithra was spread all over Gaul and Britain. The Druids kept this night as a great festival and called the day following in Nalag or Noel, or the day of regeneration, and celebrated it with great fires on the tops of their mountains, which they repeated on the day of Epiphanes, or 12th night. The Mithraic monuments, which are common in Britain, have been attributed to the Romans, but this festival, in consequence of its being kept by the Druids, proves that the Mithraic worship was there prior to their arrival. The Romans took nothing from the Druids, but on the contrary, prosecuted them and put all whom they could make prisoners to the sword. Man, that's pretty interesting. Man, my allergies is bothering me, man. Y'all just have no idea. Okay. It was not till the Council of Constantinople, called in Intrillo, held so late as the year 707, that pictures of Christ were ordered to be drawn in the form of men. Let me tell you why that's interesting to me, because there's a lot of people out there that be talking about extraterrestrials and all this other stuff, right? And I just want y'all to hear me on this. I want y'all to check what I'm about to say. Listen to me. It says that pictures of Christ were ordered to be drawn in the form of men. Why would you need to draw pictures in the form of men? Why? Jesus, I thought he was man. Or was he from somewhere else? I read this book, this dude named Samuel Chang. He put me on this book called Theoruba Prophecy. It is basically, it's almost like an identical story like Enoch or Ezekiel, how God came, or Enoch, how God came and took him and gave him certain information and so on and so on. Then this happened, I think, like in the 70s or 80s. I can't remember when, 1970s or 80s. I can't remember. But it's actually supposed to be based on true events and stuff like that. He put me on this book. I did a couple podcast discussions with him. But my point is, Pictures of Christ were ordered to be drawn in the form of men. Why? Why? Why do you need to order people to do that? Were they drawn in something other than that? Extraterrestrials? I don't know. That's why I was trying to tell people, yo, you got to go other than what you think, you know, or listening to some of these people who are out there trying to fool y'all. I'm literally reading from the book, man. I got, yo, I'm not even kidding. I'm really literally reading from the book. You know what I'm saying? I'm reading from the book, man. This is what I do. This is what I do. I bring evidence to the table. So I try to bring all this stuff because it's interesting to me. And if other people are trying to get to the truth, I'm probably like your I'm literally your human encyclopedia. Let's just put it that way. I mean, literally your human encyclopedia. Because I'm gonna go back to one of these books that I have read. I'm like, yo, that's pretty interesting. And when I say it, I can't always remember it, and that's why I'm doing this. That's why the whole part of what I've learned from reading this book series, which I want to do every day or every Monday at 10 a.m. And if I have to adjust fire, I'll adjust fire. But I want to share what I've actually read, because when I go to these Twitter spaces and X spaces or whatever, and I try to talk to these people and say, hey, did you know this? You're looking for more information. Most of the time, it's people looking for information. And I come in there with my encyclopedia-ass mind and sit here and be like, yo, I got this book right here, right in front of me that's talking about this, that, and the third. And everybody's like, oh, we're not talking about that. That's exactly what you guys are talking about. Why would you need to order anybody to draw Jesus in the form of man? It wouldn't make sense to me unless there's something hidden behind that I don't understand. So let's go to the next one. So yeah, I probably do do this again. Whenever we get back to the earliest point to which we can go, we always find a Chaldei or Mathematica or Mathemati, those persons who are said by Josephus to have handed down the cycle from the antediluvians, the persons I think as shown as Mr. Hammer, who under the name of mathematici were certainly Freemasons. So mathematics, mathematici, and mathematici all have a relationship with Freemasons, but the historical evidence that the Chaldeans were Chasdim, or that the Chasdim were Chaldeans, is clear. But I think Mr. Bryan's objection to the etymological derivation of Chaldean from Chassidim is well founded. The fact that probably was the Chasdim or Chassidim were persons of the College of Cassi, which was oh, there we go. Aya of the Holy Kali. We have a Kasi to which studies in the medicine. That means somebody just locked into my shit because my shit just locked. Slow down for a second. That's crazy. To study the Chaldean language in 2 places in North India. That's crazy. I ain't never had that. I got a full signal too. Full signal. Oh, drop something. Okay, so Chaldeans. So in my 1873 Bible, that's funny, 1873, 1733. That's pretty interesting. But anyway, in my 1873, it says in there in my Holy Bible, it says that the Chaldeans, Babylonians, and the Sumerians are one and the same people. They just changed up the names. The names just changed up, and they mostly just changed up because of the kings that were in charge. But it was actually the same people. It's just like how, and I hate bringing politics into it, but former President Biden, we are the same people that we were when he was the president, right? The people didn't automatically just change. I mean, yeah, I mean the politics and all the other stuff changed, but you know, yeah, I get the idea. Let's see, next tab. Okay, so I must now request my reader to turn to volume 1. I'm not going to go to volume 1. And he says page 647, 648, and 658. I'm guaranteeing you it's probably different. Because there's different versions of this book. And he will see it proved by various authorities that the fish Owens was in the name, the same name as John, John proved by various authorities that the fish Owen was in the same name as John. John was the cousin of Jesus. Now, I said that twice because I want you to understand that John was the cousin of Jesus. It is sufficiently near for the vulgar runners after the millennium. It is evident, or in a few minutes, will be so that all these little errors were perfectly well known to the Chaldeans. In addition to these considerations, I shall show in a future book, which he didn't have the chance because he passed away, future book, that the Chaldeans foresaw that a comet would affect the earth in more than one of its progresses in it by disturbing force necessarily causing irregularity from its nature unknown, but on the whole, even several years. This is the perfectly justified by the retardation which astronomers observed to take place in Jupiter when the comet of 1680 approached that planet. I think these considerations are quite sufficient to answer the above small objections, for the president shall not procure to the couples of development of the secret Roman systems. Now that's interesting to me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, like I said, the Babylonians, Sumerians, and the Chaldeans were all one and the same people. It's just names changed depending on their people. Blah, blah. That's what I've learned from my 1873 Bible. Now, most people talk about planet Nibiru and how it might, well, not most people. Zechariah Sitchin put in a lot of people's head that planet Nibiru came here and some gods came here from that planet on Need and Gold, blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to talk about that, but for some odd reason, that planet Nibiru came here and disrupted the planet here and it brought an earthquake. Well, now, I know based off of science, there's no planet that orbits our sun every 3,600 years as of right now, according to science, okay? If science can prove it right now, there won't be no argument, right? But it can't, right? So we don't have one. But I have read Ptolemy's Almagest, and that book is nothing but about mathematics, and it's nothing about them monitoring the sky. Like literally, it's a book about them monitoring the sky, meaning they can predict when things was going to happen before it happened. Because guess what? They was always looking at the sky. They knew the sky better than most people of these meteorologists and all these people with the technology of today. They knew the sky. That's why the meteorologists of today and the people of today know the information that they have is because of the people from the ancient times who monitored those skies. So reading Ptolemy book, Alba, just makes me understand that. Now, I understand what Zechariah Sitchin was saying in the Astro Belt and all that other stuff. I get all that stuff. We can't prove that to be 100%. But what I do know is that the Chaldeans did say that there will be another comet that would come here to affect us again. So whenever that will happen, we don't know. Okay, so I just understand a lot of my information because I go back to other texts and I try to look at what other text says and what information is being shared, because if you speaking in absolutes, you're hurting yourself. You might be helping yourself monetary because you can grift and take people's money because people are so desperate to believe something, right? There are so many people out there who are desperate to believe whether the earth is flat or whether the earth is a globe, right? There are people desperate right now for that right now. But guess what? You can't sit here and say that these people who are on opposite sides of the track, that there's not money in both sides of them. People are rich on both sides presenting their arguments, whether the earth is flat or round. There are people who are making money, who are making content, who call themselves content creators, and really going out their way to sit here and make money off of whether the earth is flat or round, right? But if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But the point is that when you actually go back and read some of these texts, you got to have facts for your stuff. Now, the Chaldeans said there's going to be something that's going to come back and hit us. There's no reason why not to believe that, because we don't know enough about our universe. And that one time that it comes to destroy us might not be thinking of what the Chaldeans thought would be destroy us. That's subjective, right? As long as there are a small group of people still living, it didn't destroy them. It destroyed everybody else, right? And it may reset some things. So you just got to be careful what you say. Saying things in absolute hurts you, because like I said, Godfrey Higgins says that all humans came from Asia. Well, science says otherwise. And some people still believe what Godfrey Higgins says, right? But I'm not here to argue that. I'm just telling you, when I read that where Homo sapiens came from, Homo sapiens sapiens, the oldest Homo sapien bones came from Morocco, Africa. And that goes back 300,000 years ago. Now, if you want to start talking about Homo erectus and Neanderthals and all that other stuff, where are they here on planet Earth right now? It ain't. So the oldest Homo sapiens right now comes from Africa. So that's why it's interesting to me. Next time, let's see. Okay, yeah, of course. It is also worthy of observation that the cycle of 360 makes a perfect cycle with the great precisional one of 25,920 years. That's what he says. The five was the lustrum when the year was 360 days long. The 6 when it came to 365. In the first case, the precision of the okay, I'm not going to read that because that's all mathematics. Let me see something real quick. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to read all that. That's just nah. Well, I think the reason why I wrote it is because at the last sentence, it actually says, and with still greater artificial cycle of 432, as well as with the real cycle of 25,000. And the only reason why I say that is because 432 seems to be a really important number. I don't know why. I still haven't figured it out, but that's definitely a reason why. Because it's a whole paragraph, and it's just a whole paragraph with numbers on how they came up to what that last sentence was. If you want more information, then let me know. I'll give it out there. I don't feel like reading it. In this book, I think I have proved that every rite, ceremony, and doctrine which is found in the Christian religion was a close copy of that of the Gentiles. I ain't say it. Godfrey Higgins said it. Be mad at me. Let's see. When did I go back to the most remote periods of antiquity in which it is possible to penetrate? I find clear and positive evidence of several important facts. First, no animal food was eaten, no animals were sacrificed. Secondly, it is recorded, and it seems probable that the gods had no names and that no icons were used. And almost all ancient nations had a tradition that they once possessed sacred writings in a long lost language. The possessors of these writings in this old language, I think, must have been the people who erected the pyramids, the gigantic stone circles, and the cyclopean buildings, which are found of such peculiar character and size all over the world. The language of the nations, or in fact, the lost language what they use, we will now try to discover, assuming that it was the written language of man. That's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. So yeah, I'm going to stop right there because that's the halfway point. That's the perfect part. Because this, man, it's a lot. I'm telling y'all, this is a lot. Like, let me read one more. This is a lot. I love it. But I don't want to go too long with it. Let's see. Shoot, that's not one. Here we go. Dang, where's that? I thought that was on. What the heck? Must be a few pages. Oh, there we go. No, what the heck? Let me just go to the tab and put. There we go. Pull the tab. Let me just pull. There we go. All right. Okay. This MN or menu was in a particular manner the symbol of the mind. Minos or menu or pneuma was a law wise giver. So yeah, we already talked about menu. So we'll just stop there. Will be on book 3, chapter 1, section 14. I don't know why it says book 3. I don't know how many books they broken into. Like I said, I don't know about how they labeled this book. Different ones have different versions of it and stuff like that. But we'll stop there. If there's any questions, let me know. Hit me up. I'll talk about it later. Yeah, God sauce. We can do a space later on. If you want to start one now, we can start one now. I appreciate y'all coming out. I'll probably do this one, probably another one. Let's see. I'll probably do this. I'll probably finish this one out on Thursday because every week I want to at least have one book done. And if it takes a 2-part series, because some of these books are very deep, and a lot of times I take a lot of notes. What I try to do is hold on, let me sit down now because I was standing up. Let me adjust. All right, let me see. Here we go. Oh man, I got my microphone. Yeah, because I was standing up. But yeah, I'm gonna go through all these. I want to do every book once a week. Go through it if I have to do multiple times. And then I'll just do it on a Thursday. So Mondays or Thursdays. So you'll know if you follow me on Monday, you'll know by Thursday if I did one or not. But I appreciate y'all coming out. Next time I'm gonna give you a list. If you go to my website, rebirthoftheword.com, and you go under the Knowledge is Power tab, you'll see all the books that I've read multiple times. It's not a list of every book that I own, but it's a list of books that I've read multiple times. I have to read at least every book that I own at least 3 times before I can put it on that list, because then I know it very well by that time. So if you go to that list, and there's a lot of books too. Don't think it's just a little bit. It's a lot of books. If you want me to do a particular book for you, I can. If you want to go research the book and be like, oh man, that's a pretty good book, man. Can you give me some snippets of it, like a trailer, like how they do a trailer? I would be glad to do that, because I want people to read the book's material for themselves. A lot of stuff that I just talked about is going to blow. It definitely blew people's minds. So it blows my mind every time I read this stuff. So I appreciate y'all coming out. We're going to do this again. Y'all stay up, be easy, peace. Yo, Lil Vibe, stay up with that music, man. That music is beautiful.